Under the banner of Duong Din, Nghe, the rain continued falling across the fortress of Ái Châu long after the messenger collapsed to his knees beneath the torchlight. Water dripped slowly from the man's torn cloak onto the stone floor, while every soldier standing nearby remained frozen in silence. Outside the wooden halls, distant thunder rolled across the mountains like the growl of an approaching beast. No one dared to speak. No one dared to move. The terrible words still echoed through the air like a curse that refused to disappear. Dương Đình Nghệ was dead. Ngô Quyền stood motionless beside the open doorway, while cold wind swept through the hall and extinguished several lanterns behind him. Darkness slowly crept across the room, yet his face remained calm. Too calm. The generals watching him understood immediately that something inside their commander had changed forever. Grief was still there, buried deep beneath the silence in his eyes. But something far more dangerous had already begun replacing it. Betrayal had transformed sorrow into purpose. The young lord stepped slowly into the rain without another word. Water soaked his robes as soldiers hurried to follow behind him through the muddy courtyard. Above the fortress walls, black storm clouds churned violently beneath flashes of pale lightning. Horses stamped nervously inside the stables while distant watch bells echoed from the outer gates. The entire fortress felt as though it already sensed war approaching from beyond the horizon. Ngô Quyền stopped beside the river, overlooking the dark wilderness, stretching northward toward Đài Loan. For several long moments, he simply stared into the storm while memories flooded through his mind. He remembered the first time he entered Duong Đình Nghệ Great Hall. He remembered the older leader's voice asking what a nation needed during times of chaos. He remembered the warmth of torchlight during the wedding ceremony, the lessons beside campfires, the trust, the loyalty, the dream of a free nation finally standing on its own after generations of suffering. Now blood had stained that dream. One of the veteran generals slowly approached behind him. The older warriors. Armor clinked softly beneath the rain as he lowered his head respectfully. "My lord," he said carefully, "the men await your command." Ngô Quyền did not turn around immediately. His eyes remained fixed upon the dark rivers disappearing into the night. Finally, he spoke in a low voice almost drowned by the storm itself. "How many rode with the messenger?" "Only one survived the journey," the general answered grimly. "The others were hunted on the road." Another silence followed. Then Ngô Quyền finally turned. The fire burning behind his eyes caused even hardened soldiers nearby to lower their gaze instinctively. "Prepare the army," he said. "At dawn, we ride north." Across the fortress, drums suddenly thundered into the night. Torches ignited one after another along the walls while runners sprinted through muddy streets, shouting orders. Sleeping soldiers rushed from barracks, fastening armor beneath the rain. Blacksmiths reopened their furnaces before midnight as sparks exploded into the darkness. Horses were saddled, supply carts loaded, war banners unfurled once more beneath the storm winds. Throughout Ái Châu, villagers stepped quietly from their homes, watching the fortress awaken like a giant preparing for battle. Mothers held their children close beside lantern-lit doorways while old men whispered prayers toward the heavens. Everyone understood what this meant. Peace had ended. Inside his private chamber, Ngô Quyền removed the ceremonial sword once gifted to him by Duong Đình Nghệ years earlier. The polished steel reflected the flickering candlelight while rain battered the windows behind him. His wife entered quietly carrying a small oil lamp, her face pale with grief after hearing news of her father's death. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them carried more pain than words ever could. Slowly she approached him, her trembling hands resting upon the sword. Tears filled her eyes, yet her voice remained steady. "You are thinking about vengeance." Ngô Quyền lowered his gaze. "No," he answered softly. "I am thinking about justice." She closed her eyes as another distant thunderclap shook the chamber. "Then promise me something," she whispered. "Do not allow hatred to blind you. My father believed this nation deserved leaders better than the men who betrayed him." Ngô Quyền gently placed his hand over hers. "I will finish what he began. By dawn, Thousands of soldiers had assembled beyond the fortress gates beneath gray skies, still heavy with rain. Rows of armored infantry stretched across the muddy plains, while cavalry units prepared beside fluttering banners marked with the symbol of Ái Châu. War elephants stood like moving mountains among the formation, their handlers struggling to calm them beneath the tension hanging in the air. Ngô Quyền rode slowly before the gathered army atop a dark warhorse armored in leather and bronze. Every soldier watched him in complete silence. Many of them had fought beside Dương Đình Nghệ during the liberation of Đài Loan. Many still carried scars from those battles. Now grief hardened their faces beneath the cold morning wind. Ngô Quyền finally stopped at the center of the formation. Years ago, he began, his voice carrying across the valley, we fought together so our people would never again bow before fear. The soldiers listened silently while rainwater dripped from their helmets. We believed loyalty and sacrifice could build a stronger future for this nation. Dương Đình Nghệ gave everything he had for that dream. His eyes darkened, and now traitors believe they can murder honor in the darkness and steal this country for themselves. Murmurs spread across the ranks. Ngô Quyền slowly drew his sword. The sound of steel sliding free echoed sharply through the valley. We ride not for revenge, he declared. We ride because betrayal cannot be allowed to rule this land. We ride because the people deserve better than cowards hiding behind palace walls. Thousands of soldiers struck their weapons against shields in thunderous agreement. We ride, Ngô Quyền roared, for the future of Viet. The valley exploded with war cries. Drums thundered as the enormous army finally began marching northward through flooded roads and mountain passes. Banners whipped violently beneath storm winds, while endless columns of soldiers disappeared into the mist-covered wilderness. Villagers gathered along the roads, offering food, water, and prayers to the passing warriors. Many knelt as Ngô Quyền rode by, seeing within him not merely a military leader, but perhaps the only man capable of saving the nation from descending into chaos once again. Far away inside Đài Loan, Kiều Công Tiễn sat within the former residence of Dương Đình Nghệ, surrounded by nervous advisors and heavily armed guards. The great hall still carried scars from the assassination. Burned lanterns remained scattered across the floor, while bloodstains had only partially been cleaned from the wooden pillars. Yet despite occupying the fortress, Kiều Công Tiễn could not hide the fear growing behind his eyes. A trembling messenger hurried into the chamber and fell to one knee. "My lord," he gasped, "Ngô Quyền marches north with the army of Ái Châu." The room immediately erupted into anxious whispers. Kiều Công Tiễn rose from his chair and approached the open balcony overlooking the city below. Rain drifted softly across Đài Loan, while dark smoke rose from crowded streets. Somewhere beyond those distant mountains, the man he had betrayed was already coming for him. "How large is his force?" Kiều Công Tiễn demanded. "Tens of thousands," the messenger answered nervously. "And more join him with every village he passes." Fear tightened across the usurper's face. He understood the truth now. The assassination had not secured power. It had awakened something far worse. One of his advisors stepped closer cautiously. "My lord, perhaps we should negotiate before." "Negotiate?" Kiều Công Tiễn snapped furiously. "Do you think Ngô Quyền rides here for negotiation?" The advisor lowered his head immediately. Silence settled over the hall once more before another older official finally spoke. "Then there is only one choice left." Kiều Công Tiễn turned slowly toward him. The old advisor hesitated before continuing. "We must request aid from Nam Hán." The chamber fell deathly silent. Even suggesting foreign intervention carried dangerous consequences. Every man in the room understood what it meant. Inviting Nam Hán forces back into Vietnamese territory risked surrendering the nation once again to outside domination. But fear had already poisoned Kiều Công Tiễn judgment. Slowly, desperation overcame reason. "Send a message," he ordered quietly. Far to the north, across massive coastal cities beneath the banners of Nam Hán, foreign commanders received the secret request with growing interest. Inside enormous military halls decorated with dragon carvings and golden lanterns, generals studied maps spread across polished wooden tables, while advisors whispered excitedly about opportunity. The emperor himself listened carefully as messengers described the instability now consuming the southern lands. So, the ruler murmured slowly, "The Vietnamese destroy each other once again." One general stepped forward confidently. "If we move quickly, Your Majesty, we can reclaim the territory before Ngô Quyền consolidates power." Another nodded in agreement. Their leaders fight among themselves. The people are divided. This may be our best opportunity in decades. The emperor rose from his throne and walked toward the enormous map hanging across the chamber wall. Rivers and coastlines stretched across the painted silk like veins leading directly into the heart of Vietnam itself. A faint smile appeared on his face. Prepare the fleet. Back in Vietnam, Ngô Quyền army continued advancing northward through endless rain and mud. Camps were established beside rivers each night beneath flickering fires, while scouts disappeared into forests gathering information about enemy movements. Everywhere the army traveled, more volunteers joined their ranks. Farmers carrying hunting spears marched beside veteran soldiers. Young men abandoned fishing boats and village markets to follow the growing resistance northward. The people no longer marched out of fear. They marched because they believed history itself was approaching. One night, beside a mountain river, Ngô Quyền sat quietly among his closest generals, studying battle reports illuminated by firelight. Rain had finally stopped, allowing cold stars to emerge across the dark sky above the camp. A scout hurried into the gathering and knelt immediately. "My lord," he said breathlessly, "Kiều Công Tiễn has requested aid from Nam Hán." The campfire crackled softly. Several generals cursed beneath their breath, while others exchanged grim looks. Ngô Quyền slowly raised his eyes toward the scout. "How certain is this information?" The message was intercepted near the northern coast. "Their fleet is already preparing." Silence spread across the camp. Everyone understood what this meant. This conflict was no longer merely about punishing a traitor. The fate of the nation itself now stood in danger once again. One younger commander slammed his fist against the ground angrily. "Then we must move faster. If Nam Hán reaches Dai La before we do, they will not," Ngô Quyền interrupted calmly. The confidence in his voice immediately silenced the camp. He stared into the flames for several moments before continuing. "Kiều Công Tiễn believes foreign armies will protect him. He has forgotten something important." The generals waited carefully. No foreign force truly understands this land. Wind rustled through the dark trees surrounding the camp, while distant river water flowed steadily through the night. "Ngô Quyền et so sao hadang." "They see rivers," he said quietly. A faint, dangerous smile appeared across his face. "But we see weapons." The generals exchanged uncertain glances.